Hey everyone, my name is Adiba, and today I'll be going over a genetic disease called cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is what is known as a degenerative lung disease, meaning that the condition will only worsen as time goes on. Globally, cystic fibrosis has an average life expectancy of 54 years, which may not sound like a lot initially, but it's actually a great improvement from the measly 35-year expectancy we had 20 years ago. Now that we've established the basics, let's delve deeper into the science behind cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is autosomal recessive, which means that both parents have the allele for cystic fibrosis. They're both carriers, which means that 25% of their offspring would be normal, 50% would be carriers, and the remaining 25% will be diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. Autosomal recessive disorders are more common in families which have had incestuous relationships in the past. So, do what you will with the information. So that covers the genetic bit. Now we're going to talk about how cystic fibrosis actually forms, but I'll simplify it so it's easier to digest in a shorter amount of time. Cystic fibrosis occurs where there's a mutation of the CFTR protein, and this is the sole culprit of the disease. Basically, in a normally functioning pair of lungs, the CFTR protein allows chloride to be secreted out of cells, followed by sodium and water. Normal CFTR proteins ensures that there's a proper balance of chloride ions in and out of the cell. This also ensures that the right amount of water and salt ions will be present in the mucus, which line the airways. Now, this part is really important. In order to keep the mucus clear, the cilia, which are tiny little organelles, help sweep excess mucus from the lung lining. This keeps a person's lung relatively clean. So we have person A here who has a relatively healthy set of lungs, and they work as they should. The cilia in their lungs can effectively brush away excess mucus, and chloride ions help thin it out. Person B here is a patient with cystic fibrosis. The chloride ions are concentrated within the cells and cannot make their way out of the glands. As a result, due to little to no water in the mucus, it becomes thick. The cilia cannot move as effectively, and when the flow is reduced, the surface becomes a breeding ground for bacterial infections, and the airways become clogged. The patient exhibits shortness of breath, frequent coughing, and is now prone to several more illnesses and infections. When it comes to the treatment, there are several different methods, but I'll just be briefly glossing over two. The first, high-frequency chest wall oscillation. This involves a sort of inflatable vest that is hooked up to a machine, which vibrates at high frequencies when plugged in. This helps loosen the mucus, and every 5 minutes the machine is stopped to let the person cough it out. The next method is still a work in progress, but researchers have studied more than 200,000 different sorts of molecules to see if they'd somehow bind to the functionality of the mutant CFTR protein. Some success has been achieved, and while for now they've only managed to find molecules that would bind to a very specific sort of CFTR mutation, more positive results are to be expected as time goes on. If it works out, we'll have medication that sort of fixes the CFTR mutations, and then cystic fibrosis will become a very manageable disease. If you're a person with cystic fibrosis, there are chances that you'll often feel more isolated than the rest of your peers, as your condition restricts you from partaking in high-energy activities. As cystic fibrosis affects your breathing, it's impossible to take part in certain things without wheezing or needing frequent breaks. People know this, and as an attempt to keep you safe, they may purposefully not invite you to various outings. If anything, this alienates you further, and it can lead to feelings of extreme loneliness. Overall, cystic fibrosis, it's not an easy thing to deal with. There are restrictions to be managed and treatments to be monitored, but that's the same with any deteriorating illness. Best we can do as individuals is be kind and show compassion. And while we don't have to go out of our way to make others happy, it's nice knowing that you have a little extra support. This ends my report, and I hope you'll walk away knowing more about cystic fibrosis. Have a great day!